Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. We're bringing you another recipe video. This time we're making a recipe, actually another recipe from Weight Watchers. It's the creamy tomato basil soup. And with the weather finally cooling around in most of the areas in the US, great time for it. If you haven't made it, you have to try this. It's so good. I'm a fan of tomato basil soups in everyday life, so the fact that I found one on the Weight Watchers recipes that tastes as good as I usually would have bought in the store in restaurants, it's an awesome find. So if you haven't tried it out, definitely stay tuned and we will show you step by step how to make it. Super easy, literally like 5 ingredients. Some people can even find the ingredients in their cabinet without even trying. So I will put on the screen, I'll put it on this side. This is the Weight Watchers recipe. It is 4 servings for the entire thing, and it is only 5 points per serving. And you'll see that it makes a pretty big batch. We honestly can double it when we want to. I actually, if you notice, there is olive oil included in this recipe. I don't include that. I cut back on those points. So it actually, our recipe, our version of it is only 3 points per serving. So everything else is the same in the version you'll see except for the olive oil. I use the vegetable broth to saute the onions instead of the olive oil. So that's the only difference you'll see in our recipe versus the Weight Watchers recipe. So whichever you prefer, I just like to cut out those calories and those points when we can, because this recipe is so good you will want to eat more than 1 serving, trust me. So let's take a look at the ingredients that you need to make the recipe. So like I mentioned, super easy ingredients. You just need some vegetable broth. We'll use 1 cup of that. You need 2 cans of diced tomatoes. You don't need the petite. I just wanted to get the no salt added ones, and they didn't have any regular diced, so petite was the only option. But any kind of diced tomatoes, I would advise you scanning them, because sometimes canned tomatoes can have a lot of added sugar. So looking at no salt added, and then taking a look at the back and scanning and looking at your calories will definitely help you pick out the best diced tomato. So you need 2 cans of that. And then you need 1 can of Great Northern beans. This you will drain and rinse before putting it in, but you need a whole can of that. And then we're going to be using some basil, some black pepper, and then this is some kosher salt. Those will be your seasonings, and you can, again, season to taste and add in anything that you like what makes your tomato soup like copycat from your favorite restaurant. Definitely play around with the seasonings if you like, but I haven't had to because this is so darn good. And then we will use 1 onion. It's about 1.5 cups, so it really just depends on the size of your onion, if you'll have any leftover or not. I usually don't. I usually use a whole onion, and this is a good medium one. It's not too big. So that's literally all you need. So first off, we're just going to dice up the onion, and then that will go into our pot to start sauteing. So let's get that diced up. I sprayed a little bit of this extra virgin olive oil non-stick spray just to coat the pan, and then I put a splash of the vegetable broth or vegetable soup broth in there. And now the onions are in there, rough dice because you end up blending it later. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn the pan on high to get it going. Our pan, this brand, the walls are really thick on the pan, so sometimes it can take a little bit of time to start sizzling up. But what we're going to do is we're going to saute this in the pot until it becomes soft. We will add a little bit of salt and black pepper to it to give some flavor to the onions, but it's just gonna sit here for good, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes depending on your oven to get soft enough that we can start adding the rest of the vegetables so that we can blend it later. So just let it sit here and saute until it's soft enough for you, basically. Throw some salt on it. And some pepper. Something I do like to add that's not in the recipe, it just depends on your flavor palette. I do like to add some minced garlic to it. I just do about 1 to 2 tablespoons. I love a garlicky flavor to my tomato basil, so I'm going to put about 1 to 2 tablespoons of this in there for it. So as you can hear, it's starting to sizzle up. I'll turn my oven or my stove top down, and just keep in mind we do cook on a gas stove, so that can alter your time and your heat if you cook on an electric stove. Trust me, I used to cook on electric, now I'm on a gas, and it's definitely different. So you just have to keep an eye on it as it sautés, and just make sure that, because we're not using olive oil, you need to make sure that the vegetable broth doesn't evaporate, because then you can get your onions start sticking to the pan and all that kind of stuff. If you're using the however many tablespoons of olive oil for 8 points, you won't have that issue. But since we're choosing to eliminate that for this recipe, it doesn't alter flavor at all, in my opinion, but it just keeps the points low. So I just have to keep an eye on the broth there in the bottom. I just have to keep an eye and make sure it doesn't evaporate on me. You can add a little bit more as it sautés if you need to get this softer, but you're running out of broth. So we'll just let this sit here and saute, and we'll check on in with the other items. A tip for time management, because I learned this the first time, is go ahead and drain your Great Northern beans and rinse them and have them ready, because you're going to be adding the tomatoes, the vegetable broth, and this all at the same time. So go ahead and get this ready, rinsed and drained, and get your 1 cup of vegetable broth ready. That's my tip right now while this sautés, and while you don't have to worry about the broth evaporating. Do this right now and get it ready so that we can pour it all in at the same time. Okay, so if you look now, this is pretty tender, and I did add a little bit of vegetable broth halfway through, but it is gotten to a really nice soft point. So now we're going to be adding in the Great Northern beans, the 1 cup of vegetable broth, and the 2 cans of petite tomatoes. So we're going to turn it down a little bit to a medium-high heat. So here is the 1 cup of vegetable broth. We've got 2 cans of the diced tomatoes, and you want to keep the juice in them, you don't drain them. So there's 1 and 2, and then 1 can of drained and rinsed Great Northern beans. And then you just season it to taste with basil seasoning of your choice. So just depends on how much you like, and we love basil. So I put some in to cook with it, and then I garnish with some. And now the point of this is to get everything to a nice boiling temperature for a little bit to soften everything. The tomatoes and the beans are pretty soft, but I like to get them extra soft, because once it's reached that point, we use an immersion blender, because I like creamy, smooth tomato basil. So for this recipe, you can do it as thick or as chunky or as creamy as you really want, but I love really, really smooth tomato basil. I don't like chunks, neither does my husband Andrew. So I would like the vegetables to be as soft as possible before I blend them so that you're not getting any kind of gritty texture. So we're just gonna set it here, return it to high heat, and get it going. So it's been simmering for about at least 5 minutes and it's got that nice froth on the top. I think it's perfectly ready, nice and soft. So we're gonna turn it off and let it cool down. So while this cools down just a little bit, we need it to cool down just a little bit before we can put our immersion blender in it, just to be safe. While this cools down for a few minutes, this is the best time to kind of prepare any kind of side or addition that you want to the soup. I love pairing it with a nice Caesar salad, crisp, and it just, the flavors go really well together. Do like a soup and salad kind of deal. Or what's really great, and that's what we'll be doing tonight for dinner, is we like to pair it with a grilled cheese. So we just use the, let me show you real quick. We just use the Delightful, Sara Lee Delightful 45 calorie. They're 1 point for 1, 2 point for 2. We just make one sandwich each with this bread. And we pair it with the Velveeta singles, the slices. They're 1 point for 1, 3 points for 2, so it just depends on if we want 1 or 2. And then we add actually some Black Forest ham, or this is smoked ham, ultra thin. So it's kind of like a ham and cheese grilled sandwich. This tastes amazing dipped into the tomato basil. It's actually really, 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 really good. And you can just make a simple 4-point sandwich to go along with this. And so you're looking at, if you eliminate the oil, 3 points for a quarter of this, which is great, and then 4 points for a sandwich. 7-point delicious sandwich and soup. Like, I'm sorry, Panera, who, but this is really, really good, so that's what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna be making these sandwiches while this cools, and then we'll show you when we do the immersion blending for it, because out of any device in our kitchen besides that bad boy, that Ninja, our grill, our immersion blender is used every week almost. It's used in at least 4 of our main recipes that we always cook, including one of our other recipes that you saw if you watch our videos, the Skinniest Dish Crock-Pot Marinara. Ugh, the best. So let's let this cool and we'll come back to blend it. So this is what it looks like. You've got your little blender down here, and then you've got your 2 buttons with the different speeds. So let's go ahead and get this blended. Alright guys, so it is all nice and blended. Like I mentioned before, this makes 4 servings, but because it's so low point and because we're hungry tonight, we're actually going to do 2 servings each. So let me go ahead and get that portioned out and show you what that looks like. Alright guys, so that's a finished portion. That's 2 servings in 1 bowl. It is 3 cups for 2 servings. So it's a 1.5 cups for 1 serving. And we've got 1 bowl here with 2 servings in it for 6 points. And then we like to add a little bit of shredded cheese on top. Doesn't even count as a point because we have the fat-free. And then this is real bacon bits. So we do 1 point of real bacon bits on top, which is 1 tablespoon. And we've got our 1, 2, 3, 4 point ham and cheese grilled sandwiches. So yeah, that's what it looks like. This is one of our favorite recipes, and with it being cool out tonight, it is perfect. So yeah, that is our creamy tomato basil soup. It looks delicious. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching our video. We really hope you enjoy this recipe. If you give it a try, let us know. Drop it down in the comments or tag us on Instagram when you make it. Our Instagram is at @thewalkinginbetween_, and we're the Walking In Between here on YouTube. So let us know if you like it. Let us know if you tried it. If you've already tried it, how'd you like it? What do you put with it? What do you pair with it? Do you change it up? Because I'd love to try different versions of this. Like, is there a different way to spice it up to give it a different kind of flavor or vibe? So yeah, just let us know. We love everybody's input. If you have a recipe that you would like to see made, put it down in the comments. We love new recipes. So again, thank you so much for watching this video, and we will see you in our next one.